Hi, everybody. Let's talk about guns because of Las Vegas. So people are saying a lot of dumb things about guns. Now, let's remember, if you ever want to regulate guns in America, you have to first proclaim your love for guns. You can't be like, I don't like guns, I think they're dangerous, and let's regulate them. You have to first say, of course I love guns. Guns are the greatest things in the world, but I think maybe we should, no, I love them. Don't get me wrong, I don't understand why you just can't say I'm against guns and let's regulate them and let's work it out. But for instance, here's Harry Reid. You think I'm kidding? Here's Harry Reid, and he's going to tell you how much he loves guns.
But let me just give you a little background here. I had guns from the time I was a little boy. I don't hunt anymore, but I did. I've got lots of guns. I keep them for sentimental reasons. But I'm a police officer. Right over here is my badge. I was a police officer. I carried a gun. That's what I did. Put myself through law school. My dad killed himself, shot himself with a gun, committed.
What?
So I know a lot about guns.
So he knows a lot about guns.
Yes.
So he knows a lot about guns because I was afraid he was going to go into like a Spinal Tap moment and take you into a room where he has all his guns laid out, and he goes, "If you hold this gun close enough, you can still hear the bang from when my dad blew his head off." And this gun goes to 11. That's why
this gun works underwater.
Yeah. He has a lot of uses for guns. Hunting, preserving memories, suicide. That's nice. It's like, I keep a gun, sentimental reasons. My father killed himself with a gun. We also keep some Celebrex up on the mantle because my other uncle died of a heart attack. He had a reaction to Celebrex. Anyway, my dad, good American that he was, loved his gun so much he wanted to make sure it was the last thing he saw. Yeah. My dad shot himself with a gun, and his last words were, "This is a mental health issue, not a gun issue." So that's how crazy you got to be in order to say you want to regulate guns somehow. You have to first talk about how much you love guns. My dad killed himself with the guns. Great. It's fantastic. So here's what Lindsey Graham said about what we should do with guns. This is after the Las Vegas shooting. He says that he was open-minded to anything that would shed light on what happened and how to fix it without giving people false hope that we're one law change from fixing things like this. I don't want to give people false hope that, we can pass a law that actually changes things. That's exactly what you can do. This is exactly what you guys could do. Go.
I'm a policymaker that certainly doesn't think policy can work. I go to a local church where my pastor is a devout atheist, and what?
Yeah, don't think that prayers are going to fix everything. Besides, by the way, the GOP was literally pushing to make silencers easier to buy. They were also trying to make it easier for people with concealed carry permits to take their weapons to other states. They had to cancel the first vote because Steve Scalise got shot. Remember that? Representative Steve Scalise got shot. So they had to postpone that vote because it would look bad. Congressman just got shot. We're going to relax gun laws? So they postponed it. They were going to have another vote, and then Las Vegas happened. They had to postpone loosening gun regulations twice, which is the opposite of what Americans want them to do. Americans don't want relaxed gun laws. Americans want more gun laws. And the GOP is so anti-American and so transparently corrupt in their legislating for guns that it can turn Chuck Schumer into a sage and a comedian. Chuck Schumer says, when two mass shootings force you to delay a bill that would make those mass shootings harder to detect and stop, well, maybe that's a sign you ought to let go of the bill once and for all. And here's some dumb stuff Mitch McConnell said. Here's Mitch McConnell. You want to? This is like a joke now. So whenever there's a mass shooting, they say this.
Yeah, I think it's particularly appropriate to politicize an event like this? It just happened within the last...
Politicize. So, when you have to talk about solutions, when you want to talk about solutions, that's politicized. We don't politicize here in Congress. The political center of the world. We shouldn't politicize, meaning we shouldn't find solutions to the problem. We just keep saying this, and then reporters let them say it. Reporters don't go, you mean not doing anything is your policy? When do you talk about it? They never say that to them.
Yeah.
When are you going to talk about it? Can you give us a date? They never do that. Reporters just let them say this. Watch, he's going to say more.
Day and a half. It's entirely premature to be discussing about legislative solutions, if any.
They act like this is the first mass shooting. We've been having mass shootings for decades. So the time to talk about this was a long fucking time ago, Mitch. So to pretend like this is just a situation that happened right now, again, is bullshit. But the reporters let them do it. That's it. And he's on to another question.
I like how he added the "if any" in there too.
Yeah.
If we can do anything, if any. I mean, this happens all around the world, right? You hear about mass shootings every third day, everywhere.
It's the price of
right?
freedom.
Price of freedom.
It's the price of freedom that you have to have mass shootings every day in the United States. Meaning a mass shooting is 4 more people. That happens almost every single day in the United States. And people say, well, you can't do anything about it. We have freedom. But they don't say that about drugs. They don't say that about robberies. They don't say that about drunk driving. They don't say, well, we got freedom. No, we curtail drunk driving. No, we put criminals in jail. You can regulate guns. It's just it's just nothing you can do. We have freedom. And people let them get away with it. And reporters let them get away with it. And the country lets them get away with it. And the Democrats let them get away with it. The Democrats ran against Mitch McConnell? They ran a woman so inept she couldn't even admit who she voted for president for. That's how inept the Democrats were. Don't offer any solutions to people, but here we are.
So,
Anyway,
I'm still waiting, when Steve Scalise was shot, and I'm sitting here thinking, what has to happen to a Republican like Mitch McConnell
Right.
for him to take a logical position on gun control in our country? Is he going to have to be shot dead by a silencer for anything to happen?
No, what would have to happen for Chuck? No, that still wouldn't change him. What would have to happen for Mitch McConnell to change would be for someone to threaten to take his corporate money away, and then he would go, "Oh yeah, I'll switch." What do you want me to say? Oh, I'll do it. You guys want me to do the other? I'll do that.
Yeah, if the NRA disappears, then all of a sudden positions would change.
That's what it would take. That's what it would take. Still allowed to get away with this. They're still allowed to get away with that. Isn't that crazy? And you saw how the Democratic leader, Harry Reid, you saw how he had to show how he loved. I mean, that's the kind of weak opposition to the guns that we have. We have that. A guy has to first tell you how great guns are.
Yeah. Now's not the time. Now's not the time to talk about gun control because people are probably going to be most responsive to hearing about it and wanting it. So now's not the time. Let's wait until another shooting, and then that's not going to be the time either. I don't know when the time is.
Please don't politicize any of this right now. It's totally inappropriate.
Ugh. Boy, I would wish I was at that press conference because I certainly wouldn't stop talking. I wouldn't stop making him answer the question, and I wouldn't stop saying, so how do you sleep at night knowing people get killed and you do nothing about it, a person in position to do something about it? How much money did you take from the NRA? These are the questions people should be shouting at him. How much are you going to still take money from the NRA after massacre? That's what people should be shouting at him. That's what reporters should be shouting, and that's what I would be shouting. And they would kick me out.
Isn't saying legislation would not work? Isn't that politicizing something,
Yes!
quote unquote, just as much?
Saying
That's the same thing.
Ron, saying that we're not going to politicize this and do something about it right now is making it political, because you are saying I'm okay with the status quo right now, which is a political position. You're okay with the way the laws are right now. That's a political position. Again, I don't know how many times I have to explain this on the show, but I'm glad to do it. There's no such thing as being non-political. That's imaginary. It doesn't happen. If you say I don't participate in politics, that means you are supporting the status quo because you have an opportunity to talk against it, act against it, do something against it. That's a political choice. There's no getting out of it. And again, I have to remind people that everything is political. If you want to see a doctor when you get sick, that's politics. If you want to marry who you want to marry if you're gay, that's politics. Or if you're black and white, that's politics. If you want the pothole fixed in front of your fucking house, that's politics. You want to make sure your kids go to a good school, that's politics. You want to make sure you can get on a bus and have transportation, that's politics. You want to make sure we spend money on schools instead of bombs, that's politics. What isn't politics? Everything is. So this idea that you could somehow do something in a non-political way, it's a bullshit thing that people say who want to keep the status quo going. So when Mitch McConnell and people like say that it's too early to talk about a solution to massive gun deaths, remember this. Since 1968, there have been 1,516,000 gun-related deaths in the United States territory. Since the founding of the United States, there have been 1.4 million war deaths. There have been more deaths by guns in the United States since 1968 than deaths by all the wars the United States has ever fought. That includes the wars, the Revolutionary War. That includes the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the Afghanistan War, the Iraq War. More Americans killed by handguns since 1968 than all those wars combined. So when someone like Mitch McConnell tells you that it's too early, you mean we have over 1.5 million people killed by guns since 1968. How long you want to wait? And again, nobody will say what the real problem is. Not Barack Obama, not the news media. They'll say, "Oh, the problem is you got to call they listen to the NRA," but they don't tell you what the problem is. The problem is our government is corrupt. Our government is corrupt, which is why you don't have a public option, which is why you don't have Medicare for all, which is why we don't have any gun legislation except pro-gun legislation, which is why we're in 7 wars, now 8, that's why, because our government is corrupt, not because the Republicans and Democrats don't get along, not because they're too partisan. It's because they're all corrupt and bought. And now you know why Bernie Sanders said you're ready for a revolution? Portland, Oregon, the Jimmy Dore Show is coming to the Alberta Rose Theater November 12th. And we're going to Burbank, California, November 6th. And the Hollywood Improv on October 16th. There's a link for tickets right down there. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for all links for all shows.